We're going to shift gears here, and we're going to now be joined by Mike Davis, who is the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. We've had him on here to talk about Donald Trump and all his legal issues. There's so many things to discuss, but I want to talk to Mike Davis today about what is going on with these aliases, 5,000 plus emails that we haven't even seen all of them yet. Welcome back to the show, Mike. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. You know, I want to give you the opportunity to weigh in on what we know so far about Hunter Biden and his connection to Joe Biden, those business dealings that Joe has said, I know nothing about those. In your legal opinion, is there evidence that Joe Biden was lying when he said that?
There's overwhelming evidence that President Biden was lying when he said he was not aware of and had no involvement with Hunter Biden's corrupt foreign business dealings. And House Republicans need to move forward immediately with an impeachment inquiry because we have a president of the United States who is clearly compromised by tens of millions of dollars of foreign bribes and other corruption to, it seems, every Biden family member except for the 5-year-old granddaughter who they just acknowledged under political pressure after 5 years. And this is no game where we see bribes coming from Ukraine with Burisma, a $10 million bribe going to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Joe Biden, as the vice president of the United States, was put in charge by President Obama of Ukraine. Vice President Biden leveraged that $10 million bribe to threaten to cut off $1 billion in foreign aid to Ukraine if Ukraine's president didn't fire the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating Burisma and the Bidens. We also have maybe $10 million coming from China and elsewhere. House Oversight Chairman James Comer has found at least $20 million. It could be $30 or $40 million to the Bidens. And this is no joke. Look where our trouble spots are in the world right now. It's Ukraine with Russia and China and Taiwan. And it's no accident. It's because we have a corrupt, weak president of the United States, and our enemies smell our weakness, and they're taking advantage of that. Russia invaded Ukraine and took Crimea when Vice President Biden was in charge the last time. No invasion of Ukraine during 4 years of Trump. Now it looks like Russia's trying to take the full enchilada, all of Ukraine, when Biden is back, because Putin knows that Biden is weak and corrupt. They have 17 audio recordings, 15 with Hunter and 2 with Joe from this Burisma executive, where he's being shook down for this $10 million bribe. Guess what? This Burisma executive is almost certainly a Russian asset. So that means Putin has these 17 tapes. That's compromising material on the president of the United States. House Republicans need to get moving on opening this impeachment inquiry.
We're speaking with Mike Davis, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. If you'd like to support the Article 3 Project, go to article3project.org. That's article3project.org. You mentioned Obama, and I think that there are so many layers to this onion, if you will. It stinks like one. And if you are starting to see the evidence that you said is overwhelming that connects Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, I mean, it seems to me, not a legal expert, that we're just starting to scratch the surface about how broad this corruption might have been. Joe Biden was put in charge of Ukraine. He was sent to Ukraine. I recall Joe Biden, when he was pushing to get the prosecutor fired, he was talking about denying that money. And he said, call Obama, call him up. And then Biden got what he wanted. Does this corruption, in your mind, does the investigation need to broaden beyond just Hunter Biden, now Joe Biden?
The investigation, we don't care about a Hunter Smith who, was a corrupt drug addict, foreign influencer. Of course, the Justice Department would care about someone like that, but Congress would not really care about someone like that. We care about Hunter Biden because he is the vice president and now the president's son, and there's clear evidence that the vice president and now the president of the United States is compromised by these tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and other corruption to himself and his family. I mean, it's clear as day. They have the SARS reports, they have the audio recordings, they have the FBI reports, they have the bank records. How much more do House Republicans need to find their backbones and open an impeachment inquiry? If foreign bribery is one of the highest crimes under the Constitution for impeachment, it leads to deadly consequences. We are at war with a superpower, Russia, a nuclear superpower. I think because of Biden's corruption in Ukraine. We would not be in this war in Ukraine. Russia would not have tried to take advantage of Biden's corruption and weakness, but for the fact that they know, Russia knows, Putin knows that Biden was on the take. He was taking foreign bribes and other corruption, and now Putin has taken advantage of that. And what's going to be catastrophic for the United States is when China takes advantage of this and tries to go after Taiwan, invade Taiwan. I mean, this is disastrous for the United States. This foreign bribery and corruption has disastrous consequences. We've already spent, over $100 billion in Ukraine. How much more are we going to send to Ukraine because Joe Biden and Hunter Biden took a $10 million bribe?
Founder and president of the Article 3 Project, Mike Davis, with us. He's also chief counsel for nominations, former chief counsel for nominations of the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary. You keep saying the word foreign bribery, and I think it's important for listeners here distinguish between legal terms and like corruption. Corruption is a word, but it's also a legal term. When you're talking about foreign bribery, and we're talking about foreign bribery taking place at the highest level of vice president of the United States, have we as Americans ever seen any type of corruption to this extent in our history so far?
I'm not aware of it, and this is quid pro quo corruption. I mean, Biden went on TV, and because he's so stupid, and admitted that he threatened to cut off $1 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine if the Ukrainian president didn't fire the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating Burisma and the Bidens. What he left out was that Burisma was paying him $10 million to do this, and he also was so stupid that he didn't realize that he was walking into a trap with this Burisma executive, because this Burisma executive taped him twice shaking down a bribe, and taped Hunter Biden 15 times shaking down this bribe. There is smoking gun evidence that the president of the United States is compromised by this foreign bribe. That's just with Ukraine. That doesn't include Romania, China, all these other places that James Comer on the House Oversight Chairman's hunting down, and the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Smith, and Jim Jordan on the Judiciary Committee. Biden's not going to be able to run from this, and it's going to be very interesting what the Democrats do when there is just incontrovertible evidence that Biden took a foreign bribe. There are tapes, there are bank records. He's clearly compromised as a president of the United States. We're clearly in a war against Russia, at least in part because of this foreign bribe. I think a big part. And what are House Democrats, what are Senate Democrats going to do about this? They think this is acceptable? Is it because they realize they have no one else because Kamala is so bad and they don't have a plan B?
I think that American voters in a bipartisan, tripartisan effort need to be leaning into this story because it's incredibly broad. There are a lot of layers to it. I don't think that to me, it's not coincidental that the initial impeachment of Donald Trump had to do with Zelensky, had to do with Ukraine. The allegations of Adam Schiff were perpetual about the idea that we were looking at Donald Trump, who was the sitting president of the United States, trying to dig up dirt on a political opponent, and then to find us in this moment right here, right now, where they have Donald Trump cornered in every jurisdiction that they feel comfortable cornering him in. Is the initial impeachment part of this story?
Yeah, absolutely. They've known this. Look, the FBI's had this evidence for many, many years. Remember, I think it was going back to 2017 that the FBI had this evidence. And what happened? Bill Barr got this evidence. He sent it to the Pittsburgh U.S. attorney who deemed it credible, and sent it to David Weiss in Delaware, the Democrat-picked U.S. attorney in Delaware, and didn't follow up and didn't alert. Didn't think it was a good idea to alert bipartisan congressional leadership that, hey, we could have a presidential candidate here who's compromised by these foreign bribes and other corruption. It's obvious. This is the same play they ran with Hillary Clinton when she got caught with her illegal home server with our nation's most classified secrets hacked by our worst enemies, including Russia. And it probably had evidence. It certainly had evidence on that server of the Clinton Foundation's pay-for-play foreign bribes and corruption. And so what did they do? What did Democrats do? Before 2016, they came up with the Russian collusion hoax. They tried to say that Trump was colluding with the Russians. So if this bad information came out before the 2016 election, they can just say, oh, this is a false flag. This was, a dirty political trick by Trump. And they did the same thing in 2020 with Hunter Biden's laptop. The 51 Intel goons, when they found the laptop with this foreign corruption, these foreign bribes, they said the 51 former Intel goons said it had the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. And then with the Ukraine, they try to preemptively blame Trump for the Ukraine mess. They knew that Schiff had to have known from the FBI and from these intel agencies about this evidence that there was foreign bribes and corruption with Burisma and the Bidens, right? And so that's almost certainly why they came up with this bogus impeachment against Trump, because it's what the Democrats do. They always accuse Trump of what they are doing.
Yeah. Only got a minute left here. We're speaking with Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project. Go to article3project.org to support what Mike Davis is doing. Where do the American people get justice, Donald Trump, I guess, included, in this imbalanced justice system that we have right now?
Well, this is obvious lawfare by the Democrats on many different fronts. 2 impeachments didn't take him out. 4 indictments aren't going to take him out. Several civil lawsuits aren't going to take him out. How the American people are going to get justice, it's going to be in 2 ways. Trump's ultimately going to prevail on these legal matters in the Supreme Court, but in the meantime, he needs to prevail politically on November 5th, 2024. The American people, not Democrat prosecutors, Democrat judges, Democrat juries, and Democrat hellholes like New York, D.C., and Atlanta are going to pick the next president of the United States, and President Trump will be our next president of the United States.
Well, that is what we need to have happen, is a very, very strong changing of the guard, and the American people need to show up to make that happen. Mike Davis, you are a wonderful guest for us to have on here. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Of course. Article3project.org to support Mike Davis if you would like to learn more about what he is doing there in those efforts. And always very grateful to have him come join us and share a lot of this insight with us.